Um, Hello, everybody, and happy almost Douglas Day. We are absolutely delighted and thrilled, more than we can even begin to express, about the show of enthusiasm and support and inspiration that we've seen across so many different groups who are coming together to make this year's Douglas Day possible. When this whole year's first started, we entirely weren't sure quite just what it might entail to put something like this on that was so focused on getting us into rooms together, sharing birthday cake, and being able to have some fun together. And so we've put a lot of work in with our team, and we know many of your teams have been right there with us. And so we're gonna run through today with some slides and things in just a moment. But I wanted to take a second first just to let all of my amazing, brilliant, talented, dedicated colleagues introduce themselves very briefly as just some of the many people behind the curtains for this year and previous year's events. Denise, why don't I maybe start with you and we'll popcorn around.
That sounds great. Thanks, Jim. Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks again. My name is Denise Berger, and I am a graduate student at the University of Delaware, and along with Jim, have been working to bring Douglas Day to life for the past, what is it? I think we said 5 years now. And I'm particularly responsible for the community engagement piece. So looking forward to this year's Douglas Day and interacting with as many people as we can as we center Mary Church Terrell along with Frederick Douglass. Chris, because you're the person next to me, I'm going to pass it on to you.
I'm going to assume it's more out of preferential treatment, but my name is Chris Willoughby. I'm a visiting fellow at Penn State Center for Humanities and Information and a historian of slavery. And this is my second Douglas Day. I came on last year, and I've been helping out a little bit with the website as well as general kind of promotion, outreach, and got some pretty exciting intel to give you all today about cakes and the Great Douglas Day Bake Off. So here for good times and support. Why don't, Courtney, you're next to me. We'll just act like that's why we pick people.
Thank you, Chris. Hello, everyone. And I am happy, to virtually see you here or feel you here. I'm Courtney Murray. I am a second year master's student in the English department at Penn State. This is my second year working with Douglas Day, and my current position has been the managing editor over the newsletters that you've been receiving. And so that has been exciting to work and promote Douglas Day and get the information out to you all. And so I will turn this over to Justin.
Thank you. Hello, my name is Justin Smith. I'm a second year dual PhD in English and African American Studies at the Pennsylvania State University. I was working on Douglas Day last year, and this year I'm an inaugural scholar with the Center for Black Digital Research and continuing to work on Douglas Day, as well as serve as one of the co-chairs of our transcription committee. And I can turn it back over to you, Jim, I guess.
I think Lauren may or may not be with us, but she was also, I think,
I'm here. I'm here. Apologies that my video is being strange today. So I work in the digital content management section at the Library of Congress, where I've been working on the library side to get the platform by the people ready for Douglas Day. So getting collections in place and working on outreach from the Library of Congress side. So it's been fantastic working with all the Douglas Day folks.
All right, great. Thanks, everybody. We've been joking also, too, that we could probably hold yet another full day's worth of Douglas Day events just to be able to say thank you to all of the people who have contributed in so many different ways. I'd also like to note that Julie Grummet, Elena M. Barconda at Princeton University Center for Digital Humanities were integral into the preparation for this year's events, as is Dachize Cheko Green, who is, I think, going to be joining us today, as well as Shirley Moody Turner, P. Gabrielle Foreman, Laura Cooper, and many, many other folks at the just brand newly opened Center for Black Digital Research at Penn State University, where we're going to be trying to build even more of the communities that we've come to really appreciate being a part of through this event each and every year. So please stay tuned for more from all of those channels. And especially thanks to all of you. We know that this has been a difficult year for all of us, especially with the Zoom fatigue and the sort of high traffic of everything going on. And so we know that it's not a small matter for each and every one of you to say, yes, I'm willing to take on the extra work and logistics and organizing to build a community to participate in this year's event. And so we know that a lot of that labor is invisible and goes hidden, but we wanted to at least recognize it and know that lots and lots of us are putting in lots of extra time to make these possible. And to that end, please go ahead and maybe jump into the chat while we're working and introduce yourselves. If you'd like to say how you're participating this year, where you're at, anything that you want to kind of share throughout the session. But when we get to the end, we'll have plenty of time for questions and answers, as I'll cover in a moment. But we'd also love to be able to help folks connect across all the many locations. All right, so if I can make the transition. Welcome to Douglas. We've gotten started. This is going to be our 5th year, as Denise mentioned. So we thought today would just be helpful for covering just some of the many moving parts and logistics. We're going to start with some welcome and introductions, as we've done now. I'll walk through a brief overview of this year's unusual program, followed by, as always, sage advice about some of the ways to think about organizing and hosting for this year. And then we're going to pass through some quick PSAs from Courtney about social media, about the bake-off from Chris, and then we're going to hand the mic to Justin and Lauren, who are going to talk about the actual transcription activities themselves. And so as we're going through, please add any kind of questions or suggestions that you may have of any kind. We're all going to be working together to answer all of your questions, and we'll have plenty of time to be able to either let you ask them by turning your cameras on, or just please throw them in the chat. Hopefully we'll get to them all. This is always a great opportunity for us, I should add too, to get lots of useful feedback from folks who are trying to figure out how to adapt all the various things into different places. So we look forward to all of your comments, questions, suggestions, or points for clarification. All right. So this year's program, as we do each year, is going to feature a particular crowdsourcing project that the many thousands of us who will be joining in this year can focus on together. And we're absolutely delighted. We can't tell you how excited we are to be partnering with our colleagues at the Library of Congress, who have been running a crowdsourcing transcription project on the papers of Mary Church Terrell. And we'll note the pronunciation, as we've learned from the descendants, as Terrell and not Terrell, as many of us have come to misunderstand it. The papers we'll hear a little bit more about in time as it comes, but we'd really encourage you to browse some of the resources on our website, including the short biography, the curriculum, as well as the brand new biography that was just released this December. And no, we didn't even coordinate that. We just got lucky, by Allison Parker out of UNC Press. We'll be circulating discount codes for folks who are interested in purchasing the brilliant, fascinating biography of this really extraordinary woman that we'll all get to learn more about together. And so just to do a quick run through of what the events are going to look like, we have many folks who are joining us either on the 12th or the 14th, because we knew that there were many contingencies and expediencies about being able to do it on a weekday or not on a weekday, given that the 14th falls on a Sunday this year, just to add to the many complications and layers. On the 12th of February, we're going to be having an event that will air through the YouTube channel, which we'll talk about in just a moment. And what you see here is a screenshot of the schedule that we've posted to the link that you see at the top of the screen. That's our organizing kit that we provide with all of our resources. That I should add too, the resources are oftentimes, when we find that lots of folks who are organizing have similar questions, we try to store that information in a publicly accessible way. So if you notice gaps in there, we're always eager to hear about what we've missed or skipped or confused. The rough strokes, broader strokes of the event will be that we'll start in similar ways as we did in years past, with a live broadcast that will run from about 12 to 12:30. Sometimes that runs a few minutes past, where we'll have welcome introductions. We'll have singing of the national anthem, Lift Every Voice and Sing. There's lyrics that we provide for just a couple of verses. And then Denise and her team have been working on what I think might be our most extraordinary slate of speakers this year, that she can talk about in a moment, but some really brilliant and frankly legendary folks that we were surprised were willing to take a phone call, much less agree to say a few words on camera for us. We'll follow that about half an hour, give or take, session with a longer block for being able to transcribe or to move into teaching activities. And during that time, we'll keep the live stream running on the YouTube channel, but we know that many folks might want to pivot from there just because of the way that screens work. Then we'll come back after about 30 minutes, or excuse me, after about an hour for a final 30-minute session. We'll hear a little bit more about the life of Mary Church Turrell, some recaps. We'll announce some of the cake contest that Chris will be talking about, and then we'll go on from there. I'm sure there are plenty of questions about that. We've had lots of questions ourselves, but I'll just run through the schedule for the 14th, which is going to be largely the same, but a little bit truncated from 2 hours to 1 hour. We'll have a similar opening session followed by activity time from about 2:25 to 2:45, and then we'll have a shorter closing set of activities. We know some folks can only make it on Fridays, some can only make it on Sunday. So there's some degree of overlap, but we're pleased to be able to make it possible for folks to be able to participate on both days. I want to talk just very briefly about the mechanics of the live stream. We're going to be making a change to the homepage on douglasday.org the morning of February 12th, where we'll put very big, difficult to find links that will take you over to the YouTube channel, where we're going to be showing the program for this year's event, as we've done in years past. And the format of it that we've been able to talk through with a lot of folks among the groups that each of you might be organizing will be that you can watch the stream on your own personal computer, and then in the same way that I'm doing it now, share your computer screen with the rest of the people in your group during the sessions when we'll have kind of live programs. And so it might take a little bit of practice. So we'd encourage you maybe just to make sure that you're familiar with how to share video and optimize the sound for full screen during each of those sessions. And then turn that off during the hours of activity, and then coming back at the end. We imagine there might be a lot of questions about that. We're happy to share more. But that was the rough format that in many conversations with folks seemed like it might be the fewest opportunities for any of us to introduce any kind of opportunities for folks to get lost or sort of cast aside by the transitions between things. The other option that we know many people who might have been teaching or running events already over Zoom would be that once your groups are ready for the time of being, ready for the time for transcribing, what you can do is maybe send them into breakout rooms so that they can still chat a little bit even while they're working on their screen on some kind of transcription. We'll leave that up to you. We didn't think that there might be any kind of standard way to approach that, but thought at least that might give some way for folks to still be able to talk with each other during the event, as opposed to being just kind of in our own living rooms by ourselves throughout that time. So please, any kind of questions that we can answer to help clarify those things, but that was the rough sort of broad strokes about how those might operate. I just also want to flag that on our website, I think many of you probably already are familiar with these, but just for the sake of sharing, we have plenty of resources on that organizing kit on the website, with a guide to transcribing, our curriculum that's bigger and better than ever, a little bit of information about Turrell and her papers, some FAQs, and then a last part, which is that we know that many people might be struggling to address any kind of troubleshooting questions or any kind of hiccups that might come about. And so on our homepage, we'll also be adding a big link to a Zoom room that's going to act as a kind of help desk, where people from our team will be available to talk with people either by video conference or we'll have a phone number where people can call in and get help with any kind of questions. We imagine that a lot of the questions tend to be largely the same, but we also want to make sure that folks are able to get the help. And we imagine many of you are sort of anticipating those sort of questions as well. We're also going to be publishing a number of videos about the life and legacies of Mary Church Turrell, as well as a transcribing tutorial that will be on our YouTube channel and on our website, so that people can go back and rewatch them a little bit during the transcription time if they so prefer. Okay, now I'm going to pass the mic over to Denise and let her share a little bit about hosting and facilitating and teaching from her many years of experience.
Thanks so much, Jim, and welcome again. I'm encouraged to see how many people have logged on and joined us. As Jim had mentioned, I'm going to say a little bit about some of the people. He's given some, I think, very tantalizing hints. So, for example, we of course have the esteemed Dr. Allison Parker. Great interview with her, where she speaks about her critical biography of Mary Church Terrell, Unceasing Militant, which is excellent. So for those of you who haven't ordered her book yet, you will have even more reason to do so once you watch the interview where Dr. Parker talks about Terrell and her life and her legacies and why she's a critically important person for us to think about, especially in today's current context. We also have the direct relatives of Mary Church Terrell, who have made a series of small videos for us and have taken pictures from their Frederick Douglass Mary Church Terrell House Museum, which they have in Highland Beach, which is where they live in Maryland, in a development that was built by one of Frederick Douglass's sons, and where Terrell and Douglass were next door neighbors who would share tea. We've learned all kinds of fascinating details about the relationship between the two. We have a panel of archivists, including the very well-known Ken Grossi at Oberlin, Dr. Lopez Matthews at Moreland Spingarn, and Adrienne Cannon at the Library of Congress, who engaged in a very robust conversation around what it means to guardian, curate, and keep the actual ephemera and the material objects that are connected to Terrell's legacy. That's also been recorded. We have a couple of other surprises that are coming that I won't get into, including one that I will speak about a little bit, a congresswoman who has been made famous not only for her political record, but her championing of Mary Church Terrell's legacy. So we are promising a very interesting time to spend learning about Terrell from experts, from people who actually knew her, and from people who study her. In addition to that, if you're a teacher who is teaching in a K-12 classroom, or you know someone who is a teacher, we have a completely fleshed out series of 6 lesson plans with corresponding supports and links that are published on our site, douglasday.org, under the, I believe Jim is going to take us there. Gotta love her pictures, just ridiculously elegant and beautiful. In any case, so here you see Mary Church Terrell and her quest for social justice. The curriculum was designed to be adaptable from K right through 12. There are the extensions that make the lesson plans adaptable, in addition to the fact that all of the resources are digital. So you don't actually need to purchase anything. Everything is built in, from the documentation to liaise with your admin and or parents, to the downloadable tools that the students will need to use in their classrooms. There's 6 themes. Everything is mapped out from the bios to summative exercises right back. We wanted to make it as turnkey as possible. The curriculum team spent a lot of time creating this. Really, really hope that people do pull it up and involve themselves with it. And by involve themselves with it, built into this entire series are places for people to provide feedback. So we're interested to know what it's like implementing this. We've already piloted it in a couple of classrooms, but we're really looking forward to getting feedback as we continue to develop curriculum. So please, if you're a teacher, K through 12, if you're going to be working with your students, if your students are going to be transcribing with us, this would be, oh, thanks, Jenny. That makes me feel really glad. If you look, you probably see my name on it. I'm trying not to be too excited about that, because I'm really looking forward to the critical. I really want the critical feedback, please. So please spread the word far and wide, forward at will. It's downloadable. We did all of that on purpose to make it very, very easy to use. And we're looking forward to your feedback. We want to engage our students across classrooms as deeply as possible with not just our records on the CCP site, but archival records writ large. So that is the other thing that we're offering, which is actually pretty standard. We've been offering curriculum every year whenever this is the 2nd year that we've offered explicit curriculum with Douglass Day. I believe those were all the things. Oh, and then when you are There we go. So when you're actually interacting with us and when you join us and encourage as many people as you might know to join us, there's several ways for you to participate. If you're a teacher and you want to teach the curriculum either during Douglas Day, before or afterwards, it is eminently adaptable to all of those ways of interacting with the curriculum. If you want to transcribe with us, it's very easy to do. The LOC site, which is linked on the douglasday.org site, is extraordinarily easy to use. The We the People site is actually, I think, one of our simpler interfaces. So you can join us and transcribe on the day of. You can join us and transcribe if you had such a great time you want to keep transcribing when we have our second. And of course, though we expect that we're going to complete her entire archive, you will be able to go back into this archive if we don't finish it, which on occasion happens. And very often what happens is people go back over the weekend and they keep transcribing. That's good to know. Hi, Karen. They keep transcribing until we complete the entire archive. We've done that every year when we've worked with an archive. So it gives you an introduction. If you feel overwhelmed by all of that and you just want to watch us on YouTube, please feel free and send the link to friends and family members who you think might be interested. If you're like, YouTube is creepy, you can watch us on Twitter. So there are a variety of ways for you to interact. If you don't have the time right now, as Jim had mentioned earlier, then you can log on to our site and we're going to have the entire live stream recorded and posted on the site. In addition to that, we're going to have the uncut, what I call the extended versions of all of the interviews, roundtables, and panels that we are conducting as a part of Douglas Day. So you can hear everything again, watch everything again, re-experience it again, or you can join us live and in person for the actual event itself. So there are multiple ways to interact, to participate with us. I'm not going to jump all over Chris because he's going to talk about the cake contest, which the only reason I'm a little salty about that is we're not going to be able to do it in person, but I'm so looking forward to how Chris is going to explain that it's going to happen. So without further ado, I'm going to hand the virtual mic over to Chris.
Then I'll hand it over to Courtney.
Okay, so Chris and I are just gonna give you a little details about how to participate with us on social media and ultimately the Great Douglas Day Bake Off. All right, so these are all our social media pages and platforms. So you can connect with us on Twitter, primarily through the douglasday.org Twitter, but we will also be monitoring the CCP Twitter. So that will be at @CCP_org. As Denise and others were saying, we will be live streaming on YouTube. So you can find us through Douglas Day. We also have an Instagram page, so if you want to share cakes or anything through Instagram, you can just type in douglasday.org. But the most important thing is to remember the important hashtag #DouglasDay. So we can be able to see your beautiful cakes and everything else you want to share with us. And so why post on social media? So it can help you connect with not only us, but other people who are having celebrations nationwide. I think we might have people even worldwide, Jim. So that would be interesting to see. And you can get ideas about what kind of panels you want to include in maybe next year's page or next year's celebration. So you can show off your students transcribing, you transcribing, singing, happy birthday singing, and any discoveries too that you may find in the archive. And also we'll be monitoring questions too. And this is a wonderful example from our last year's Douglas Day. So this is the University of Tennessee, Knoxville chapter, Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. So this is a wonderful version of like what you can share. So if you may have people who are celebrating groups on campus or anyone in your virtual Zoom room, we would like to see it. And now I think I'll turn it over to Chris because what's important about social media is our great Douglas Day Bake Off.
Thanks, Courtney. And I was going to say, the beauty of being on social media is so you can make it to next year's social media engagement discussion at the pre-meeting, like now. So the University of Tennessee AKAs. So everybody knows Douglas Day, as well as being an amazing educational event, is also a celebration and a party and a lot of fun. So every year we normally sing happy birthday and eat cake together in a room full of computers rather than in separate rooms with one computer, but that's just not possible. So what we're doing is the Great Douglas Day Bake Off. I guess a number of us are fans of the Great British Bake Off. And what you can do is you can post a picture of your cake along with the hashtag, multiple hashtags, but any of them will work. Hashtag Douglas Day, hashtag Great Douglas Day Bake Off. Either will get you entered into the Great Douglas Day Bake Off. We'll pick 5 winners, 3 winners on February 12th and 2 winners on February 14th. So show us your best cakes. I expect home done images like these. These are definitely home cooks, somehow screen printing. So winners will receive exclusive and special Douglas Day prizes. Jim, can I give any hints on what those prizes are? I don't know if it's too special, too secret, but it's very exciting. And so our next couple of images are we have just a lot of really cool cakes. This is from Mississippi State, students both transcribing and a delicious cake. Our next picture is, this is from 2017. Obviously screen printing on the cake is professional. I'll be making an embarrassingly rudimentary tres leches cake and then forcing somebody with better handwriting to write happy birthday on it. But yeah, so people take a lot of cakes. This is like the, king cake of Douglas Day cakes from the Howard event last year, with a top level cake. And then this is a really cool one from Texas A&M San Antonio. So we notice these. We will amplify your cake pictures. Oh yeah. And that's an interesting question from the chat that we'll address that in Q&A, but about for professionally owned or professionally made cakes from Black-owned businesses. We always recommend going to Black-owned vendors, but we might want to have a professional subcategory. I don't know that a professional baker will be as excited about the amazing gifts that we have got planned, but that would be really cool because the professional bakers always show up for Douglas Day. And with that, I think that's all of our fun cake and social media engagement, but a lot of the fun of Douglas Day followed on social media, cakes, pictures. It's just so much fun to see everybody celebrating African-American history in a really meaningful way. So with that, Justin.
Chris, I'm just gonna hop in real quick just to respond in the moment. If folks are already in contact with Black-owned bakeries, we know that there are even a number of them, because of the world in which we now live, who are willing to even ship cakes across places. And maybe we'll try to adjust for any professional skill sets coming through, but we'll have lots of prizes and swag available to give out. But we always try to look for Black-owned businesses that we can support, especially with this event, but with all of our events, knowing that oftentimes those relationships, especially if we're at a university museum, involves adding those businesses to become vendors as part of our university. So it's not just getting them a small order here and there for this particular event, but bringing them into the distribution of university resources or institutional resources. And so we know lots of you have already done that, and we really, really appreciate that. We know that that's really where some of the real concrete differences can come from. And so if you have any contact information right now, please throw it in the chat, and we'll go through after today and maybe even post some of that to the organizing kit so that other folks might be able to contact them. And we'll really look forward to that. And if anybody knows any Black-owned t-shirt printing companies, or I don't know, tote bag printing companies, we'd also appreciate that kind of information too. as a PSA. So I'm now going to pass it over to Justin.
All right, hello. So right now what we're going to be doing is a live demonstration of the transcribing. So this year we are excited to be able to partner with the Library of Congress and use their By the People transcription platform, which is a different platform than ones that we've used in the past. So it'll be a little bit different of a process for those of you who have done it before. And so I want to welcome Lauren Algie, who introduced herself a little bit earlier, but she's from the Library of Congress, and she is a By the People community manager. And she's going to do a brief 10-minute demonstration of the transcriptions live. And as Jim mentioned, there will also, as we get closer to Douglas Day, be a playlist of pre-recorded tutorial videos that are a little bit more in depth that we made with Lauren's colleague, Carlin Osborne. But right now I'll turn it over to Lauren so that she can demonstrate live for everyone.
Thanks, Justin. So I'm going to share my screen. Always fun to do it live. You'll notice that I'm at crowd-stage.lsu.gov. So what I'm showing you is actually our staging site. So this is what our main site looks like, except that the materials are published here, which they're not on our main site yet. However, you can visit crowd.lsu.gov at any point up through the 12th, and you can see the platform and see other campaigns that are live, and actually other Terrell materials that have already been transcribed to get familiar with it. But let me jump back to the staging site. So one of the first things I want to show you is how to register. So you actually can transcribe without registering for an account. But we recommend registration because that allows you to track your work. It also allows you to become a reviewer. So ours is a two-step process where everything must be fully transcribed by at least one volunteer and then reviewed and marked as complete by at least one volunteer. It could take several passes of review before things get completed. But review is a really important part of the process. So we encourage you to register. So you can register pretty easily. Just click register in the top corner from any page. You'll have to put in a username, an email address, and a password. We don't ask for any other information. And once you fill this out, click register, you will receive an email at the email account you entered that you'll have to click through a confirmation link. So if you have a class that's going to do this or another group, you may want to ask folks to register ahead of time just because that'll make sure everybody's sort of ready when they get there, but you can also do it together as a group at the time. So I'm going to go ahead and then log in because I am already registered. And now that I'm logged in, you'll see I have a little account button up here in the top corner where I could see my profile. If I'd like to, that's where I could track, see things that I've already worked on, which can be really useful. So now I'm going to jump back to the main page. This is what it'll look like on the day of the event on the 12th. So the very first thing in our carousel here is Douglas Day. So if you click this Let's Go button, it'll take you straight to Mary Church Terrell. There's another way to get to her here at the bottom. And if you get lost at any point, if you go to campaigns at the top, she'll be listed right at the very top of our whole list of things that are live on By the People right now. So a lot of ways to get to her, but let's jump back to the beginning and see that Let's Go button in action. So if I click Let's Go, I go straight to Mary Church Terrell. And this is a description of what's in the campaign as a whole. As Jim mentioned, folks have been transcribing her papers for the library for a bit over 2 years now, and they've already transcribed and completed 20,000 pages, which we are so excited and proud of our volunteers. But we'll be releasing the final section of the campaign on the 12th, which is an additional 4,607 pages. So these are not live yet. They'll be going live on the 12th. And they're all in a section called A Life Illuminated that you see here. So that's where you'll want to go. You can also, at any point, you can see the progress that's being made on this page. So let's go into A Life Illuminated, and you'll see a description there that gives you an overview of what's in the materials. These are what's called the miscellaneous series. And it includes a lot of printed material, calling cards, all sorts of things that are really fascinating little snapshots of her life. So I can find something to work on by just browsing through these, selecting a page that looks good to me. So I'm going to click in here, these calling cards, membership cards, and I can pick which page looks good. I'll select that page, and then I just start typing. So you'll see this open transcription box. Go ahead, start typing, you got this, and just type what you see. So I'm going to start going identification card for use. And let's say that that's all that I wanted to do right now. I could save my work so that somebody else can then come along and finish out this page, or I could come back to it later. If I finished typing out the entire page, I would click submit for review. And that would move it into the review queue where somebody could then come along and review it. I can also at any point click find a new page, which will jump me to something else. If what I'm on is not my speed, I can jump to a different page anytime. We encourage people to explore, to find the page that looks right to them. This is not an assignment, you do what looks good to you. And I can also jump back to a Life Illuminated to the main page at any time. So there's a lot of ways to explore and find things to work on. You can filter to just things that aren't started. If you just want to transcribe, it'll then only show you things that are not started. If I click on needs review, it'll just show me things that need review, which right now is nothing because nothing's been done. If I just want to go straight to something to transcribe from the main Mary Church Tarot page, I can click this link that'll take me straight to something to transcribe. Oh, except it's saying there's nothing there because I'm in the non-published part of the collection right now, sorry. Or if I click this jump to a page to review, it would take me to something that needs review. I think I have those mixed up. So anyway, clearly I need to go back to the admin part of our site and fix that. But those quick links will be really important, particularly if there's a lot of people on the site and you're having a hard time digging through to find something, because it'll tell you if there's somebody else already on a page, you may want to use these links. Those will be really useful. So let's go and find something to review instead. Oh, it's because I have my filter on, that's why. Okay. So let's just I just realized that there isn't anything to review, so I can't review. But review will look exactly the same. It'll just say needs review here at the top, and you'll see a transcription on the side. I'm actually going to go to a different campaign to demo that real quick. Sorry about that. So I'm going into our suffrage campaign instead, where I'll look for something that needs review, just so I can give you a quick look at what that looks like. So this is a page from the Lucy Stone papers that has already been transcribed. So you can see that in the transcription box is the full text that has already been typed up. So what I would do is just read this closely. I will probably want to use my controls in the viewer to zoom in closely and read closely and go line by line to make sure it matches entirely. If it's done, if it's complete and there's no major errors, I would click accept, and that would complete the page. If I see something that needs changes, I can hit edit, and then I'll be able to edit this page. So I can make those changes, I can save again and resubmit for review. And then it'll give me an option of reviewing or transcribing something else. So it'll look exactly the same in the Tarot campaign once there are things to review. One final thing to let you all know about is where to find the instructions. So there are instructions, really detailed ones about how to transcribe, what order to transcribe things in, what to do if you come across illegible things, what to do if you come across images. So use these instructions. I recommend reading through these instructions before you get started. But we're also, as has been noted, we'll be around all day to answer any questions that you have if you come across any gray areas. There is also, you can email us at any time. You may get a quicker response through the Douglas Day Zoom or do Twitter, but there's lots of ways to let us know if you're having trouble you can contact us through this as well. And we do have a discussion forum called History Hub that you may want to engage with. That's also an option for you or for your students or your group. You could start threads here to show off anything you're finding that's particularly interesting, to ask any clarifying questions. We really like this discussion board because it means that not only do you get a question, but anybody else who would have that same question can come across your thread and get clarification on something or find the cool thing that you're sharing. I think that that's everything that Justin wanted me to cover, but I'm happy to answer any questions or show off anything else when we get to Q&A. And definitely check out the tutorials that Justin created, because they will give you a really nice walkthrough again of how to transcribe and how to navigate the site.
Lauren,
I'm gonna stop sharing.
Lauren, can I maybe ask you just real quick to elaborate a little bit? I think one of the more common questions is, do people need accounts, or why might they want to register for an account on the site? And I think the other one, just to reiterate, that you mentioned, when people are having trouble finding things because there's 1,200 people trying to click on the same thumbnail at the same time, what should people do when that happens?
Right, so if you click on a page that somebody else is on, it will tell you, so there will be a pop-up saying somebody else is already on this page, and it'll actually, I think there will be a quick link that'll say jump to a different page. But if you use these links here, this jump to a page to transcribe or this jump to a page to review, that will automatically take you to something that no one is on. So if you're having that trouble, then I definitely recommend coming back to this main Mary Church Tarot page and using these quick links. And if none of that is working for us, get in touch, and we can figure out what's going on. But I don't anticipate that. Setting up an account. I'm sorry, Jim, can you repeat that question about registering?
Yeah, just to help folks understand why making an account might be helpful and why people might want to go through that process as opposed to just clicking on and getting.
Right. So you don't need an account to transcribe. We do have anonymous transcribers, which is great. There's lots of reasons that people might not be able to or might not want to create an account. That's okay. However, if you set up an account, then you can be a reviewer. And like I was saying, review is a really important step. It is the thing that allows us to then take the transcriptions that are made and put them back on the library's main website, where they make these materials searchable and accessible. So review, transcription is the first pass of looking at a document. Review is the second, where you can then mark something as complete, which means it's ready for publication. So you do have to have an account in order to review. Having an account also gives you access to a profile page, which I'll show you my profile right now, which has a lot of things on it, which then allows you to see the most recent things that you've worked on, jump to something you were working on. We often have people emailing us saying, I transcribed a page yesterday, I can't find it, I can't get back to it. If they had been registered and logged in, then they would be able to get back to that page. So that's another reason that it can be really useful to register. And if you register, you can also tag pages. We do have tagging, which tagging is a tool for within the platform to really sort of communicate with other volunteers. Tags do not go back into the library's main collection, so we don't focus on them as much, but you can also tag. Here's an example. So I could tag this as Mary Cherry. If you have an account and are registered and logged in. So that's the final thing about registering.
Great, thanks so much. We're all a little bit in awe about how easy to use the site has been, and we'd really encourage folks who are going to be hosting and facilitating, just spend 5 minutes maybe looking at some of the other campaigns, just to get a little bit familiar. Oftentimes we find that the majority of questions are about helping folks get up and running, about logging in, about finding things, and so on and so forth. And so we'll be happy to be able to help through the links that we'll post on our homepage, but we also anticipate that we might be a little bit bottlenecked. If we didn't mention this already, we have something like just under 6,000 people signed up to participate this year. And so just due to traffic and volume, we might be a little bit slow in helping folks out. And so if you're able at the specific events that you're hosting to be able to answer people's questions as a kind of first line. Hopefully they'll be able to have a much richer experience.
And if you try it out in the next week before the event, definitely contact us via our contact form if you have any questions about using the site as you're checking it out. We check that email every day and we'll respond quickly.
Great. So I think we're getting close to the hour here, but we've got 12 or so minutes that we'd be happy to take any questions. I've seen a number of them coming up in the chat already. If you'd like to raise your hand, I can give you the ability to speak it out loud, or if you want to throw it into the chat, we'd be happy to help in any way that we can see. We're eager and curious and really looking forward to going through this process together in a really unprecedented kind of event with such an emphasis on being in community together while we're all having to be physically apart. So I think we can open up for questions now. If people need to follow up with any kind of questions by emails, of course, we're also at douglasday.org@gmail.com. You can find that information on our website. You can also just jump into our direct messages on Twitter. Sometimes that might even be the quickest way to get back and forth.
Jim, I wanted to ask a couple of questions that have already been addressed, but that maybe might be why. Can you just say where the webinar will be once it's recorded? I'm sure it's on the YouTube site, but if people need to get it.
Yes, thank you. That's very important, right? We will post a link to the YouTube channel onto our website in the next, this afternoon. That will provide access to the YouTube channel that we've used since last year. We'll also have a playlist of all of the different videos that are going to be part of this year's program that we'll be posting during the event on February 12th to be available. And so folks will be able to go back and rewatch this session and rewatch especially the tutorial session to be able to transcribe.
And we have a couple of questions from the chat that I can read out if that helps. I think this is a question that we've never thought directly about, but how do we suggest people manage both the stream and the transcription? Because not everybody probably has like 2 screens or something, like probably a decent amount of people who work in libraries and universities do.
Denise, Lauren, Justin, you want to take this one?
Oh, Denise, you're muted. I'm not here. But I was just going to say we could talk about what is going to be on the Zoom screen, which I think, Denise, you might be able to speak a little bit more to those transition slides.
Absolutely. Thanks, Justin. I was literally just typing that. So I'll go back to typing that because apparently I can't chew gum and walk at the same time, which is akin to the very good question that's being asked in the chat. So the dedicated time for transcribing is just that, dedicated time for transcribing. What we will be showing during that time are some really cool pictures of Mary Church Terrell and shout outs to some of the people who've helped us with sponsoring, thank yous, that kind of thing, pictures. So you can resize your browser screen, but you won't be missing probably the last thing our sponsors want to hear us say, but you're really not going to be missing much. So there won't be actual content that would require you to focus. Because we love our sponsors, I will ask you every now and again to just look to see who's just clicking through, but it's not critical. So no, you don't need to do that at all. Literally it'll be pretty passive. We're working on either having a circling of a really great instrumental, if we can get the rights for it, of Lift Every Voice and Sing. Or we have a 19th century African-American woman composer because she was working in the 19th century, her work is free and available. We're going to have her work cycling in the background in terms of audio, and it's going to be information that you don't need to focus on. So no, you don't need to resize anything to be able to keep an eye on what's happening on the live stream, because you're not going to miss much. But when you do look, please be very happy to pay attention to our sponsors.
And I think that the additional aspect to that might be a sort of group by group choice would be, if you want to have folks minimize their Zoom or just bring up their transcription on the web transcription platform and the web browser up to the front so that people can chat a little bit. You know, I think it's oftentimes, I'm sure many of you have seen kind of an interesting choreography as folk get really quiet when the transcription starts and are really kind of focused, but also trying to preserve the opportunity for those moments that are some of my favorite, when they can look at somebody else and say, oh, that's an interesting thing that I've never thought about before. And we get to kind of share as we're being immersed in these archives. And so I know some folks are going to be trying breakout rooms for smaller groups so that there's not 50 people sort of saying, oh, that's interesting as they work along. Or some people might need to kind of partition to be able to focus on the transcription and just have it minimized in the background. A lot of folks I know are also using tablets, which makes that a little bit tougher. And so for part of that reason, especially those of you who are going to be sharing the stream into your groups, we'll keep that video stream as a constant video throughout the duration of the event. So you don't need to go and find a different thing to reconnect. You'll just be able to reload that same page where the video appears. And that video will also be on our homepage in case it accidentally closes. If there are other strategies, other approaches that people are thinking about, we'd love to hear them and share them. I think it's fair to say that none of us have had to encounter quite this version of things before. I've even seen some people suggest, and thanks to Mark Kepler as well, who's just joining us from Penn State, another one of the secret heroes behind a lot of this work. Folks could even try joining by Zoom on their phone while they're typing on their computer or vice versa, and trying different kinds of ways. Though I suppose we should also say too that we really recommend transcribing on a laptop or a tablet computer. You can, I suppose, try it by mobile, but it's very, very difficult to be able to see the screens together, and it, I think, makes for a difficult experience. I think most folks tend to intuit that, but just for the sake of sharing explicitly.
And I was going to say maybe Jim or somebody or Denise maybe talk a little bit about just how to order stickers and stuff, because I know there's some questions about that, and this might be a good PSA moment to just how to get.
Yes, so what I'm going to do right now is paste in a link. We tried to talk to a bunch of different vendors, and it turns out it's fairly either expensive, slow, or difficult to find a company that's willing to let people order in small quantities for customized stickers with any kind of timeline. And so rather than being constrained to order 50 stickers, and I'm not sure that any of us need those shipped to our homes, we've posted all of our graphics files, both as image files and as Adobe Illustrator files. You're welcome to order those. You can, I think, go to a local FedEx location. There's lots of sort of sticker vendors online who can use it pretty quickly. And we have both the traditional stickers that we've had with Frederick Douglass on them, as well as some key quotes that our team has chosen from Mary Church Turow, and all kinds of great ways. Those images are also, you know, you're more than welcome to use them for any kind of purpose. We share them explicitly with the purpose of being open and able to adapt. We apologize that we spent a lot of time calling vendors and contacting them, and weren't able to really find any kind of great solutions for the ordering system. We, I think, are going to be trying to learn more about how to run a merchandise store in the next year, but that turned out to be one of the trickier things that went into this particular year.
And then I'll also reiterate something that Justin said. People asked about tutorials for transcribing on the day. And this is also like an important, we have a lot of tutorials that are on our YouTube page, and there will also be tutorials built into the live stream, I believe. So that there will be transcription help on the day of, like, or information. And then this is another question that from the Q&A. And it's, is there a way to have local events listed on the site with contact info? It's from Kaylin Dwyer. I worry that some people have received info directing them only to the national event, and we'd love to be able to connect with them. So I think making those connections.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for that question. That's a really helpful one. And what I'm going to do here, I'm going to sound like a broken record, is add one more link. And that's a map so far, and it's I think 5 to 7 days out of date, so forgive us while we update it. That's a map of all of the locations. We used to post a long list of the locations and contact details, and we're finding that those were getting harvested by folks for marketing and less noble purposes. And so we put them in a map. But what we'll also be doing is we have a couple of hundred people who have registered looking for events in their area. And so for those of you who indicated that your groups might be open and amenable to folks from off campus or from outside your institution to joining, we'll be sending an email out to them in the near future to let them know that here's the map and the listing of locations so that they can get in contact with you. I think hopefully that should answer it. If you don't see your information or if it's somehow incorrect, please just get in touch and hopefully we can get that updated as quick as possible. You can email it either directly to the Gmail or you can drop it into a message here and I'll make sure to get that carried over.
Jim, I've got a request from Courtney to maybe bring up how any participants can receive help from us, like the Zoom room, and also say Karen Canary, I hope I'm pronouncing your name right, said that she prints her own stickers on Avery round labels number 22825. I'll copy that and put it for the attendees as well. Yeah, about how we getting in connecting with us for help.
Yeah, Justin, do you want to maybe talk about that?
Yeah, so I think Jim alluded to it earlier, but as we get closer to Douglas Day, we're going to add just a big help button on the douglasday.org site. And when you click it, it will take you to a link where you can access a Zoom room as well as the phone number if you need to call into the Zoom room. And we will have people in the Zoom room during the whole day to assist people with questions. And then you can also reach out through social media, through Twitter, email, the Library of Congress. There's various ways, but I think the Zoom room might be the quickest, most efficient way to get help. But depending on what your issue is, there's different people you can email, and you can, like I said, get in contact with either us, the Douglas Day team, or the Library of Congress team, and their contact info is on their website as well, which Lauren pointed to in her demonstration.
This is a question from the chat that Lauren, I think, will be able to answer. Are the transcriptions considered open access?
I guess I'm not. We're a government institution, so it's completely open data for use or reuse by anyone for any purpose, if that answers your question. There is sometimes a bit of a lag between when things are finished on by the people when they can get through our digital collections process to get on lock.gov. So often that's the best place to find them, but they all do eventually end up on the maybe Library of Congress website where you can read them or download them. And we have now started publishing completed by the people campaigns as data sets as well through the digital collection site where you can download them there. So it'll, again, be a little while before the Terrell materials are there, but eventually they will be downloadable as in a completely open data set as well. So that's another impact of this work.
And we're so excited about what that actually means for our participation, which is that those of us who help transcribe get to help shape what's literally in the Library of Congress and what becomes part of the long-term digital collections for these materials. We know lots of folks are needing to move on to the next meetings. And so please don't hesitate to be in contact by email at douglasday.org@gmail.com. Many of us, I think, have already been in contact with you. We're also on Twitter. We're also on Instagram. We are not presently active on Facebook for a few logistical reasons, but you're welcome to follow the Color Convention Projects page, which is also going to be sharing the video stream during the event itself. Thank you to all of you for all of your hard work. We're inspired and always amazed at what creative, energizing, community building efforts go into this work. And so we look forward so much to being able to celebrate with all of you next Friday, next Sunday, And happy Black History Month to everybody.